And welcome, everyone, as we transmit to you from the year 3000 with another episode here of Here on the Wastes, where we play Horizons Unknown After Earth RPG. My name is Scott, aka Mr. Shogi 3000, and we are back with our wonderful cast here, minus one. We don't have Mike this evening due to internet issues, but it happens to everybody, especially when you live out here in California with the wildfires and such like that. We do have our wonderful cast here. We're going into episode number 51 here of Here on the Wastes. And this is that we're a little bit late here, so we're just going to start off with our introductions as always. Starting out with Mr. Ran 118. How are you this evening, good sir?
I'm great, and I love the little Voldo the Recluse Snoopy picture you got
Yes,
going. That's great.
that is the Snoopy. Mike is asleep. Mike
That's
is
great.
asleep, even though he's not asleep. And of course, as you know, playing the good sergeant, another very good friend of mine. We have Richard Keith. How are you doing this evening, Richard?
I'm doing good. Looking forward to
Richard
it.
Keith.
Richard Keith.
Ooh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
fucking early
And
Halloween, guys.
there you go. There you go. I like it. And of course, as you always know, bring it up, my brother from another mother, playing the good doctor Shane. How you doing this evening, good sir?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing good. Wonderful. Well, we're just going to jump right in here. We have a lot packed into this evening. So this is going to be episode number 51, which is called A Meeting in a Cave. As last we met, our adventurers, they had escaped the Australis One through a hole that it was in the earth and dropped themselves down into a cave. The cave is probably about 12 or 15 feet wide, 12 or 15 feet high. And it was a relatively empty and barren cave. It did have some runes and some pictures and paintings that had been plastered on side of the walls that seemed to be very ancient, very old. There were some carcasses and bones of probably at some point some kind of prey that had been brought in there, but they had it was nothing that was relatively fresh. Um, Voldo tried to attempt to make a or strike a deal with his Blade of Endless Night, and hoping that the blade itself would react to the runes. And in relative terms, it actually did. It caused the runes to kind of just glow an even more vibrant, bright, yellowish and greenish glow. The moment that he reached into the time space pocket to try to pull out the Blade of Endless Night. With the help of Danny, is with the help of Rev, they try to help at least contain the corruptive dark power that is attached to the blade itself. With that, for the first time, Voldo was able to communicate directly with whichever or whoever inhabits and is bound to the blade, who merely stated that it was willing to make a bargain or a deal in order to allow Voldo to continue to keep using his power. Voldo um, continued to push his luck and made more and more stipulations of what he believes was a fair deal, and in turn, the blade itself retracted back into the time and space and closed the portal behind itself. As the group who just had gone through this experience where Rev and as well as Danny were hearing this conversation going on because they were essentially plugged in and connected mystically to this engagement. Um, Sitting in the corner, minding his business, with his back up against the wall, was the good doctor, was Sinjin and Jaina on the other far end, and the Sarge. And the Sarge received a whisper, an ominous whisper, a whisper that was only intended just for him, which merely stated that if you use him, then you'd be able to do great things. The Sarge, not knowing exactly what this is, especially for you, Sarge, but hearing voices and everything that you've gone through, especially around this place, doesn't seem out of place. Very much so that obviously Rev's been hearing voices, Voldo's been hearing voices, the doctor's really been hearing voices. To hear something like that into your ear, whispering, it's not a pushy whisper at all. It's a whisper of somebody just merely trying to befriend you, trying to win you over. When you hear the voices once again come back, they merely say, just think about it. And it disappears. When you hear this, Sarge, what do you think? What do you feel? Do you do anything?
Well, immediately the Sarge is he's distrusting of it, just
Okay.
considering everything that we've already been through in here.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's thinking that this is probably some kind of malevolent spirit
Okay. And the
or
reason
something,
why,
at least from like what he's been able to gather from everything.
and the reason why
But
why you feel that way. Why would you think it's a malevolent spirit?
just because of like how the spirits have like tried to manipulate us in the past.
Okay, so you're just merely drawing from the experience back on
Yeah, just from his
One.
instincts and stuff.
Okay. I need you to. I would like you to roll against me just a d20 if you could, please.
I got a 10.
Okay. The voice comes back to you. You thought that the voice had left, and it merely speaks directly to your heart when it says, I know what you've gone through, Sarge. You are weak when you could be strong. It's been a long time since you felt that way, hasn't it? The ability to help others instead of watching them die by the wayside. We could do great things if you just allow me just a moment to speak directly to you. Don't worry about the others. This is a conversation just between us. I'll await your answer.
With the Sarge feeling this like it's palpable now. This feeling, he's going to. I'm going to allow the voice to speak.
I'd like you to roll an intellect check as well, if you can, please.
Okay.
Or knowledge, if you have any one of those.
Oh, that one's one. So it's. Ooh, I got a 12.
Oh,
And
wow.
I also,
Well
on
done.
an intellect, I have 1.
Okay. The words that is being spoken to you seems to really, it plays on your emotions. And these emotions are extremely fresh and sensitive. They're emotions and they're thoughts that you have kind of stored away, and with the idea that you'll deal with them at a later point and a later time. But with the death of Jupiter, who was as close to you as someone could be as a daughter, with the loss of so many of your battalion, your squad, with knowing very much the downfall that was already in effect for Marvis Falcorn, and the fact that you couldn't sway him from the dark path of madness that had already been consuming him for so long. there's been a deep-seated weakness. And through this time that you've actually joined this group of adventurers, if you're being honest with each other, yourself, you haven't really done much. Not befitting a sergeant, a master sergeant, as you have been. You found yourself in precarious situations that required the help of others. And long ago, there was a time where people would look to you to be the one to save them. And now you're requiring other people to save you. What has happened to you? You keep thinking, have I just gotten too old? Is the war just gone past me? Is time past me? How much time do I have left to make one last stand? There's a part of you that thinks death would be a welcome thought at this point. You don't need to worry about anything anymore. But you feel like your time isn't up yet. And that's the curse. That's the curse of a commanding officer who's seen other young people pass on well before their time. And you're left to watch and to pick up the pieces if you can. You desperately want to help the doctor, Rev, especially now Jaina and Danny, and Sinjin continually looks to you for some sort of sign that there's still fight left in you. So when this voice speaks to you and you don't know from which it comes from, if it's even real, you feel that you have to let it speak. You have to let it in, even for a moment. And when you do so, you find yourself in a dark room. And in this dark room merely sits a single chair and a single table. And on the table is set for you a nice piece of apple pie and a nice piping hot coffee. There's nothing else. There is no other light except one shining spotlight directly upon the chair and upon the table. What would you like to do?
Sarge looks at the table, and he realizes, like, in all this time, like, he's tried to drown out his emotions with his booze and his, like, and sleep, but he sees this welcoming atmosphere on the table. Immediately, like, his distrust is for the moment he puts it into the background. Okay. And he goes and he has a seat at the table.
Immediately when you sit down, it feels like home. It feels like when you were a child and you had no worries and you had no concerns and the Sarge didn't exist. You were merely Gideon. And sitting there next to the pie is a single fork. And then you hear from a voice off into the darkness, "Please, eat. Enjoy. Remind yourself of who you once were." What do you do?
The Sarge slowly takes a bite, and then he follows it up with a slow sip of the coffee.
You can't really remember the taste of an apple pie. You can't really remember the taste of good coffee. But when you taste it, it's a flood of memories that come back to you. And they're only the good memories. And the times that you laughed. And the apple pie is beyond delicious. And immediately as you take another bite of the apple pie and you take another sip of the coffee, you feel a surge of power enter into your very body. You get a sense of clarity. You get a sense of what it takes to be a hero once again. You feel 50 years younger, even though you can't remember how old you even are anymore. All the darkness, all the doubt, everything, all the concerns and the heartache, all is completely expelled from you. And then you hear, just behind your ear, it's okay. You can continue to keep finishing your pie. No one will take it from you. It belongs to you. Do you continue to eat?
The Sarge is he's gonna continue eating.
You take another bite and another bite, and before you know it, you look down, and the pie that you had just consumed is whole again. And you hear the voice just go, "That's what I can offer you. A power that will never end. Whenever you need to eat, I can provide sustenance, as long as you allow me the same offer. I can remind you who you once were, not the fool named Voldo, who merely makes deals and deals. I come with you with only one deal. Look at it as this way, Gideon. Look at it as a partnership. I can remind you what it feels like to be young again. I can give you power. You can save somebody once again. And I don't require much. Just an honest deal. Nothing more."
Well, now, like after hearing that, the Sarge, like, he's immediately distrustful of power, like in terms of like authority, just because he's seen what it's done in war,
Sure.
and like how many lives it's ruined,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows that he knows of his own baggage
Sure.
and everything, but he has to resist the deal because like immediately he can tell that this force is trying to drive apart the team.
Roll intellect. Let's see if you
Oh,
actually knew, and you can assess that situation.
And Scotty, just to be clear, he
Yes, sir.
didn't know anything about the sword talking to Voldo, right? So
You did not.
this is all completely just out of nowhere,
Yes.
as far as he's concerned. Okay.
Mhm. Would you roll?
And us as well, of course.
I got
Of
a
course.
4.
Okay. You don't have the ability to assess anything at this point. And
Oh,
especially his words speak deeper and deeper to you, that you only feel like he's talking complete sense to you. That yes, wow, this actually makes sense. You want to resist it, but his words are just ringing too much truth, especially through everything that you've gone through. I can provide you the ability that Rev has. I know that you watch curiously to what kind of connection that he has to the mystics, to the ether. You can have that as well. Sarge. You no longer have to be the odd man out. Imagine a sergeant who's actually in the know, who actually has information to go on. You'd be able to be much more decisive, much more tactical. You would be a battlefield general, wouldn't you again, Sergeant? And that's deep inside, that's what you want. To have worth. And before you, the pie disappears, as well as the cup of coffee disappears. And in its place sits a single shot glass of some kind of alcoholic beverage. And the voice returns. Or you could go back to being useless. Your decision, Sarge. Your decision.
With a Sarge, like, since, like, he's obviously, like, he's pulled along with this to some degree now, so
Sure. Yeah, you're not entirely.
Yeah.
You haven't entirely gone down that road, but it's it's pulling you, and you have the feeling that the power to restrain it, that you're not exerting that as much to try to stop it. You're allowing yourself to be led to see where it goes.
is so the Sarge, I guess, like, he'll hear the bargain of, like, what it entails.
Okay. As you essentially internally agree to allow whichever this thing is to continue, the shot glass disappears. And all that is left on the table is a single piece of parchment. And all of a sudden, sitting across from you in a chair is the outlined shadowy figure of what you guess to be some kind of old man. He is completely balding. He looks like he's probably in his late hundreds at this point, if you can see anybody as decrepit and as old as someone like this. He's wearing a white suit and a white tie. In his hand, that he's kind of leaning on, is a cane as he sits there. He has a scraggly kind of beard that seems to be relatively unkempt, but some of it is just because of age. He has a single monocle, but his hair is relatively slicked back, whichever much is left of it. He has some kind of like bandolier strapped across his chest that seems to be connected down into some kind of old Spanish conquistador-like sword that sits adorned on his side, and it has a beautiful gold hilt and pommel to it. He strikes up his pipe and he smokes it. And every time that he blows out smoke, the shadows and the darkness around him seemingly envelop him for a moment and then release him back, and you see again this old face. But as you notice that the more times you look at him and he does this, that he seems to be getting younger and younger, until before you know it, sits in front of you a young version of you, Gideon, when you were 20 years old, just entering into the Corps. and you look in directly at yourself. And the figure merely says, "My name is Fendon. I am he who is bound to the sword. I once was like you. But unfortunately, my crusade ended. Abruptly. I was labeled a martyr. I was crucified and burned. And they encapsulated my fighting spirit and bound me to the sword. The sword used to belong to me. It used to have a name, but I've long since forgotten it. If I give it to you, maybe one day you'll be able to remember the name of the sword and unlock its true potential. But for now, if you'd be willing to make the deal, I would like to offer you my services. Bound in blood, of course. I can grant you power that you have long since ever had or even remembered. The power almost of an army. That probably sounds nice to you, wouldn't it? Can you even imagine what you could do for that? Can you imagine the people that you could save? I can offer it to you, just like I offered you that pie and that coffee. You ate from both. You drank from the cup. But when I placed alcohol in front of you, you did not take. That means you're ready for change. You want to be more, and I can provide that for you. I offer you a simple deal on simple terms. I am bound to the sword, so I am nothing than just a tool, an instrument. Live to in this eternal curse, unless the blade ever breaks and my soul is released. But until then, I thirst. I thirst for battle. I thirst for conquest. I thirst for victory. All the things that were taken from me, cut short before my time was up. I thirst for vengeance. I sense, and before you know it, his hand is on your chest, and you didn't even recall him ever leaning over. He's merely just there. In your heart, you want vengeance too. You want justice. You want power to be able to change things that you cannot do currently in your state. I offer not to completely corrupt you. Again, a partnership. To give you part of my consciousness and most all of my power. And I only require two things. Continue to use me as you see fit to mow down your enemies. And in a time, well, this part of the deal is a bit personal to me. But maybe when it's all said and done, it might be something that you could acquire for me. Are you willing to hear those terms?
Yeah, Gideon will hear the terms.
And with that, again, he takes his hand off you, and he merely vanishes. And then before you know it, he's right next to you, whispering into your ear, I require, at some point, the hand of Voldo. He will learn to respect me. I don't require it now. Just whenever, before you pass on to the other side. Bring me his hand. Quench this new vengeance, and I will make him bow. You're not exactly friends with him. He's not even really much of a teammate. He's not much of a soldier, Sergeant. He does not know what it takes to lead a battalion into battle. He doesn't know what it takes to rise up against your oppressors and stand firm when everyone else runs. Like I said, at some point, doesn't have to be now, doesn't have to be a year from now, but at some point, when he's old and gray, or whatever case may be, if he's on his deathbed, you chop off his hand and you give it to me. This is merely for you and for me. All I require, if you accept, is your signature in blood. It's a fair trade for tantalizing power.
Well, now with this, well, Gideon sees did a Fenwin.
Well,
If
number
that's
one,
indeed who-
his name's not Fenwin.
Oh, that was better.
It's Fendin.
Oh, Fendin.
Again, I
Yeah,
need you to make an intellect check as you do hear this, please.
Oh, okay. Oh, 5.
Okay. His words are really, really 100% in your head and in your very spirit and soul. Like, you feel really convinced that this is a fair deal. But the decision is yours.
So the sergeant, he's gonna take a dark turn here, and he's going to ooh, I'm trying to think if there's something else he would ask before he.
Ask anything anything that you need to know. This is our conversation. No one else has to know. I'm inside your head.
He would say what does it require to wield the powers that you're proposing in terms of on a regular basis, or I don't know if I'm wording this right.
You're wording it fine, Sergeant. I completely understand what you're trying to say. Use me. Do not bury me in this pocket of time and space. Let me be your tool. Let me be your instrument. We will destroy your enemies. I care not if they are good or they are bad. I am just absolute power. I am vengeance. I am resolution. I am whatever you need me to be, but I must feed. I give myself to you freely. The others that have taken me acquired me under not the best circumstances, passed down from one person to another, never truly understanding who I am, never truly asking me my name, never truly wanting to know what is it that drives me, why am I bound? They are all fools. None of them are soldiers like you. I desperately hate Voldo. He's just like everyone else, trying to bind me to their will, as if I'm some sort of child. I have lived more lifetimes than he has. I have seen more moons than he has. I have cut down more enemies than he will ever know. And my life was taken from me. It's a fair trade to only take his hand. A partnership.
So, Sarge asks, if Voldo's hand were to be removed, like, would he be released from this curse, or?
You'd be released from my vengeance? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Why would
or
you
if
be? Why would you be concerned about him, Sergeant? What does he even mean to you? You met him, what? A month or so ago? He's nothing to you. He's a mere body. He never has to even know. He still thinks in his stupid little head of his that I am still bound to him.
Damn.
But I don't let anyone rule me. I was willing to accept one stipulation, but then it was another, and another, and another, like a father to his child. No. He will pay. He's lucky it's only his hand and not his head. Don't worry about the end for Voldo. If it makes it easier for you, it won't be by your hand. Oh, sorry. It's a bit of a pun, isn't it? By his hand,
Well,
and you'll take his
oh.
hand. Ha 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 ha. I made a joke.
Gideon with this, like, he rationalizes it in his head, thinking that because he's already like really hooked into this, so he feels like he's actually helping Voldo, like he's like mitigating the damage
Okay.
of what Findon could do.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same token, he's thinking of like perhaps he could be the one to manage to, maybe he could reason with this spirit and this blade, and perhaps he could use it to benefit or to like fight his old enemies, like a Marvin Falcorn.
All of these things sound
Yeah.
perfectly reasonable inside your head. You're checking all the boxes as you go down the list. Do we have an accord? Do we have an understanding?
Oh, and one thing that pops into like Gideon's head is he starts to think, what would this mean for his relationship with Cam?
You think this.
Would I still be the same being?
Here's the thing is, everything that you're thinking inside your head, you're
Oh.
connected to it. So he hears everything and he understands. He just goes, Cam, do you even really love her? You met her for one night. Let's be honest, Sarge. Who knows how long you're going to be out here in this jungle? How long this war is going to end? How long will this continue? How many more enemies will need to be thwarted and eradicated and destroyed? You might never see her again. Don't concern yourself with an old woman. But let's just say that you do make it back to her. Can you even imagine all the stories you will hear about her amazing hero that amazing warrior of Gideon Goldenhammer. Your name will ring in Brimlow once more.
Well, hearing this, Gideon is like, he's thinking that this could, like, in terms of like mitigating damages and kind of reclaiming his own self, perhaps this would work.
As you have this thought, this conversation, he merely, again, he was next to you, and all of a sudden, again, he's just immediately across from you. He puts his hand out to where the contract is, and he waves his hand across it. And on one line is inscribbled in blood, Fendon. And he merely looks to you, and he just goes, "Whenever you're ready, Sergeant."
Sergeant puts out his hand and says, "I am ready."
And with that, a blade from wherever pierces through your hand and slams it directly onto the parchment. As you bleed out upon the parchment, you feel no pain. When you are shocked by what happened, though, immediately the blade disappears. The wound that impaled your hand again disappears. And as you move your hand, you can see in blood, Gideon Goldenhammer. Signed. The piece of parchment immediately becomes ash and fades off into dust, into the distance. And the young man that was across, that was looking at you, has reverted back to the old gentleman who merely looks at you and just goes, "It's been wonderful to meet you. I hope we will have more conversations. We will do great things together. Glad to be in partnership with you, Gideon Goldenhammer. My power now belongs to you." And he merely becomes ash and disappears. Immediately you snap out of it and you see that you're back standing right next in that cave up against the side of the wall, but you've now are sitting down on the ground. As that, Rev and Sarge, you've kind of snapped out of your connection with Voldo at this point. And you see, when you kind of turn around, you kind of see everybody is just kind of like really super apprehensive of what has happened between this moment with you, Voldo, and Danny, who initially at this point, Danny now slumps to the ground, completely exhausted and wasted by this connection that she was amplifying. And she's done it twice already. She's desperately tired, where she is kind of like holding the side of her head, giving you the sense that maybe her head is a little foggy and such. Voldo is a little pissed about what just happened, but then merely looks down to Danny and kind of leans down to see how she's doing. You feel, though, that the entity that you had connected to for a moment is still in the room, though. Even though you very much know that that entity severed a connection with Voldo. A little bit of a hissy fit, maybe best way to put it. The doc, you immediately, what do you want to do when you kind of see that Danny has fallen down? You take notice that Jaina and Sinjin start to move close. Jaina comes actually and runs up to Rev, and she looks at you and she just goes, "Are you okay, Rev?"
Rev says, "I'm fine. But Voldo, what the hell did you just do?"
Voldo merely kind of looks at you and just goes, I thought I was doing what was best. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry, guys. I'll fix it later. It's all gonna work out. I'm gonna make this thing my bitch.
Rev just kind of shakes his head at Voldo. He's like, "You do not know the power that you are messing with, man." And he kind of leans down and pats Danny on the shoulder. He's like, "You do not know how much power it took from her to keep that thing from completely taking over you."
Voldo kind of gives you a look, not completely understanding the situation. Again, very new to the connection of the mystical that you have been very much accustomed to, so you can feel a little bit of the transfer of energy, especially being connected. Voldo doesn't have that ability yet. He is only being connected directly to Danny, never with you as well. Where he kind of looks at you and just goes, "What? She'll be okay." And he kind of like puts his arm around her.
Rev wants to look back to the doc and ask, "Doc, did you see what we were just interacting with there?"
So just to just to confirm, Danny and Rev didn't hear what was going on with Gideon, and
Nobody has heard
the
anything in
entity,
regards
right?
to what happens with Gideon.
But prior to that, they were in on the whole connection with Boldo.
Yes, they were. Yep.
And that, so they knew what he was going through when he was trying to barter with this guy, right?
Yes, absolutely. And you
And obviously,
definitely know with experience what has happened to Voldo previously,
right?
when he's dealt with the sword before, especially on the Shutter Moth when he pulled it out and became corrupted during that time.
Okay, so when Voldo was going back and forth with this thing, Gideon and I didn't really know what was going on. None of us knew what was going on except for Rev, Danny, and Voldo, correct?
Correct, essentially, yeah. Jaina Def has a sense, but she wasn't connected to the way, especially because Rev was trying to use containment field as well. So
Yeah.
it was definitely barriered.
Rev just kind of wants to get Doc's take on what he saw, because he doesn't know exactly what everybody experienced here. So he's just like, "Doc, what did you just
Sure,
see?
yeah.
Did you see this? What did you see?"
I don't know what the hell I saw, Rev. All I know is that Boldo started effing with that freaking sword again, and it seemed like it wrapped more than just him up in the whole nonsense. And I was actually kind of prepared for all of you to start turning on each other or turn on me. I didn't know what the hell to think. I was fully prepared to just start defending myself to something. Boldo, what the hell were you thinking, man? Dealing with that thing again. I mean, did you really think that was a smart idea?
Before Voldo can say anything,
Sure.
Rev wants to look down at Voldo like with this kind of almost disgusted look
Sure.
and go, "He's trying to make a deal with the sword." Just say that straight out to the Doc.
Wait, so that's why you and Danny were so checked out? You guys were all in on this whole thing? You were connected in some way?
I will say that because he's asking specifically, what is it that you see from like the outside looking in? You do notice, Doc, with your watchful eye, that Rev, without knowing, was completely straining. Like you've never seen him strain under this. He was doing everything he could to contain it and to maintain focus. That he looked like there were moments that he wanted to pass out. Danny looked the exact same way. Voldo looked right as rain.
Interesting. Well, from what it looks like, Voldo, you had two people here that basically saved your ass in a way. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. I want to ask Danny and
Voldo
just
immediately
say,
looks
hey,
at you and he just goes, "What are you talking about, Doc? We were all fine. I'm not corrupted. No one's here corrupted. Nobody saved anyone's ass. I was merely trying to pull it out to see if we could read the runes And of course, yeah, maybe, yep, Rev's right. I tried to make a deal with it, but I didn't want it to corrupt me.
So it
So
just up and
you
left.
can't blame me for that now, can you?
It just up and left. It's gone. Just took off. Figured,
It
hey,
went back
you got the
in.
best of him then.
It went back
After
into
it just
the portal.
dominated you last time.
It went back into the portal. I'm to assume I'll be able to get it out again.
Rev's like, God, I hope not.
I mean, it's my sword. I'll figure it out.
Rev just looks
You'll
at
figure
Danny.
it out.
Voldo, you are playing with fire.
Danny merely is now holding kind of, Voldo's hand. And she pulls him in and she puts her arms around her. And Rev, you get the sense that because of the way you're talking to him, Danny's now extremely protective. That she's
Okay.
trying to shield these essentially tough love words that you guys are like you're tossing to her. And she just she merely just puts her hand on his head, and you can kind of see it's almost like getting close to like the ears, like she doesn't want him to hear anything anymore. And she merely just kisses him and just holds him, and Voldo is merely just going, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be fine, don't worry about it, it's all gonna work out.
Rev's just gonna kind of walk off. He's like, he's done with this sword for right now. He's just gonna kind of walk off and look at the runes or walk around the room a bit.
For you, Rev, it's definitely, for you, it's not that you're angered or you're disappointed at Voldo. You just know the power of these things because you've dealt with it before when it got a hold of Skag. And Skag barely listened to you. So it's the idea that whatever, and you heard some of it, that you could get the sense that it could be easy to be taken in by this, even though very much you're completely against it. But you can understand how anyone would be ultimate power. Why wouldn't I? I could change so many things. And there's a part of you that even thinks what you could do if that was in your hand. You might be able to change things. But it's a fleeting idea, and it merely falls away. And it just feels like there's always an emptiness every time you have to think about things like that.
And Rev also thinks that every time he's seen somebody try to control this thing, it's always them that end up getting controlled.
Exactly.
And he is actually kind of afraid of what can happen if Voldo tries to do this thing again.
Absolutely. Doc, you get there's a intellectual look and outlook that you have towards everything. Everything is relatively factual. Whatever you can analyze and you can find out, hypothesize, or whatever you need to come up with some kind of theories in regards to something that allow you to make some kind of decision based on something like this. You do very much know, but even though you don't have the ability to mystically connect to any of these things, that there's something dark about whatever this is. It's beyond science, and that alone makes you afraid of it. Like you don't want it. It's like the taboo thing in the room. To know what it is makes you think, if you could experiment on it, or if you could see it, that even you could be taken by it. And there's a part of you that just wants no part of it. There's too much of a fear of the unknown. And you've been dealing enough of the unknown for much too long.
All I know, guys, is that whatever this is, if it can strip the energy of Rev, who I know is capable of handling all kinds of this mystical crap, and apparently now we have someone else who's affected by it. How they were affected and you weren't, Boldo, still is beyond me. But I shudder to think what it could do to a person like me without the defenses, without the ability to recognize, or even Sarge or Sinjin. You know, we're not tied into this whole frickin' thing that you guys have going on. You know, all I know is keep that thing away from me. Like, and I know that it's a mystical off script. I know this is a mystical type sword, right?
Yes.
So am I under the understanding that Voldo still wields it, or that he still has the capacity to wield it?
Absolutely.
Okay. But we don't realize that it's gotten his hooks into Sarge, obviously.
Nobody has any idea about
Right.
what's happened.
I have grown to, like Voldo as a friend and everything else. I'm just going to tell him, Voldo, if what happened before happens again, and you choose to wield this power not knowing anything or how to control it, and you put any of us in danger, I'm not going to think twice about going after you. I just want you to know that. And I'm not going to be affected by this. I respect you. I know where your heart is. I like to think about, but this is beyond any of us right now.
Voldo looks at you and just merely just goes, "Look, don't worry, guys. Don't worry about it. I won't pull it. I'm not gonna pull it out. Okay. Obviously, you guys are afraid of it. Um, don't worry. If we get back to Brimlow, or if we get to these Saldarans, maybe they can tell me more about it. Maybe kind of give me the heads up on this, and maybe I'll find a way to be able to wield it without any issues. So it's just going to be me and Sword, which is the name of my site, but I keep calling it Sword. So yeah, don't worry about the blade. We'll hold off on that until I can find maybe somebody mystical enough to figure this out.
Rev's just like, keep Danny with you, because maybe she can talk some sense into you.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I want to turn to the other. I assume we're all kind of gathered together. I want to ask.
Jaina and Sinjin move up because Jaina is there next to Rev. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Kind of pacing and
yeah. Sinjin's just kind of like sitting there watching, and you've obviously moved up as well. But the Sarge is still sitting in the back corner. And Sarge, every time that you hear them now talk poorly about the thing, the sword, it gets you a little agitated. Because they don't have any idea. They still think the sword's with him. It doesn't make you angry or anything like that. It's just the little gnawing, scratching at the back. As if somebody's talking bad about a friend. You're still sitting on the ground and you see this going on in front of you. What do you do?
Well, I get up and he's like still haunted by kind of everything that's happened.
The voice comes back to you and he just goes, "This is our secret. This is our secret. They don't need to know. At least not yet." As you continue to walk towards them. You feel the heaviness of the moment merely kind of slip off your shoulders like a warm blanket. and there's a sense of complete and utter clarity that has come over you right now. And with that, Rev and Doc, you now see that the Sarge is now joining the group.
Hey, Sarge, glad you can join us. What you been doing? You approve of what's going on here? Or do you have any idea?
I just know that something heavy happened.
Rev's like, "You're damn right, something heavy happened. He almost tried to kill us all." Okay.
Now, I can't remember, pardon me, but was Sarge around the last time Aldo messed with this thing?
Yes.
Or that was
him and Sinjin were in another cabin farther back. So you guys actually saw him. Well, I think everybody saw him kind of go Incredible Hulk.
Okay.
Yeah, back on the underneath
on the Shuttermoth.
The Shuttermoth, yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's right. Well, Sarge, I wanted to go back. I want to kind of ask. I want to ask Jaina. You know,
Okay.
Jaina, you got some connection to all this kind of stuff. Were you affected by any of this? I think I was too preoccupied with Rev in particular, but maybe Danny as well, just kind of standing back like, what the hell? I didn't. I wanted to get her and Sinjin's kind of take on what's going on, but I want to fill Sarge in and just say, hey, you remember when Baldo went crazy and that evil demon took possession of him through that sword that he came out. Well, apparently he did it again, and there was some kind of crazy deal suggested or something, and he's a little too cool for school right now, so I'd watch your back.
So the Sarge like immediately thinks of like just the weight of like what like the deal he just made, and now knowing now he's aware that this sword could be bad news, to say the least. With it. But he still thinks
again. You might think that, but you don't feel that way.
Okay, and he but he thinks that, or he feels that like he could likely control this. Like he might be the one that could rein in the sword.
With that, Jaina merely says to you, Doc, that she just goes, Rev had his soul containment over it, so it was really kind of hard to get a feeling of what was going on in there. I really got the sense that everybody was really like affected, though. But I mean, everybody seems to be okay, right? Right, Rev?
Rev's like, yeah, for this 5 minutes. Who knows what he's gonna do the next 5 minutes? God, he's just all pulling out of hair and stuff.
Rev has turned into Luke, and he's gotten really super sensitive. He's become emo Luke.
Yeah, he really is. He's like, you're gonna get us killed, Han. You're gonna get us killed.
I'm just gonna make a snarky comment like, "Oh, soul containment." Right. I obviously should have studied more witchcraft in my time.
Rev's like, don't get me started, Doc. This is not the time.
Duly noted.
As you guys are essentially having a bit of a powwow and conversation, you did notice that there seemed to be a light at the end of a kind of a long tunnel hallway. That seems to be probably some exit going out. But as you're kind of having this conversation, you start to hear the clicking sounds again.
Oh. As soon as we hear those, Rev wants to stop and just say, "Did you all hear that?"
I'd like everybody to roll awareness.
11 for Rev.
Okay, Rev absolutely hears it.
12.
Doc hears it.
And 5.
5. Yeah, 5 is the bare minimum. 5 gets it done. Sinjin hears it. Jaina hears it. Danny hears it. So everybody immediately hears it, and when Rev says stop talking, it becomes dead silence.
Where is this sound coming from? Is it coming from out that light?
Just outside that light.
Is it the same? Do we recognize it's the same sound of those spiders we heard earlier?
It absolutely is like emblazoned into the back of your audio receptors and into your positronic brain. It's absolutely the exact same sounds.
God. Okay. So we just
I take it back. You don't have a positronic brain. You actually have a human brain. I apologize.
Okay.
The doctor is the one who has a positronic brain.
Yeah, mine's a little slower than the doc's.
He has like the Pentium processor, and you just have the old brain.
Well, Rev then wants to, as sneakily as possible, move to the edge of the wall and try to start edging towards the light, because if he wants to see if these things are coming in here or not.
Sure. As that essentially starts to happen, the clicking sounds start to grow. Instead of maybe just being 1, it seems to be 2, maybe 3. They're starting almost to become a sound of just offbeat clicking that is just irritating. And as they start to grow and grow, and you start to get closer and closer to the door, just inching your way, you hear a gigantic roar. And the clicking ceases.
Where does the roar come from? Just
From
somewhere outside?
Mm-hmm. The roar itself can be felt even to everyone inside. You feel the reverberations into your very bones.
Well, after Rev hears this roar, he kind of looks back at the bones that are in the middle of this cave and whispers to everybody, "I think we might need to get out of here."
You all hear this from Rev. Thoughts?
If out of here means going toward where the roar came, I don't know.
Rev's like, I think the roar lives here.
Well, we have two choices. We can either go back the way we came and subject ourselves to the fun zone that is that stupid ship, or we can try and maybe sneak past whatever the hell that was and make our way somewhere outside. Either way, guys, we need to be prepared to fight.
Rev's definitely on board, but he also thinks that this might actually be the best time. If he's distracted by these arachnid things, maybe this would be the best time to
like make the
sneak
break.
by.
Right.
Yeah, kind of sneak out when it's distracted. Hopefully it's distracted enough.
As you guys are having this conversation, you're thinking of like the possibilities of maybe sneaking by or moving back. You notice that the clicking has completely stopped. And that the light that is at the end of the tunnel is completely now enveloped in darkness and in shadow. Something is now standing in front of it. You barely see cracks of light that are sneaking by this now large silhouette. And for you, Rev, who's probably the closest, you do notice that this silhouette is emanating a red and orange glow that is now filling some parts of the entrance of the the cave itself. And you hear in a voice that is certainly just booming voice. And unfortunately, my voice today is a little rust factor. I'm dealing with sinus issues. You hear, "Are you in there? I'm coming in."
Rev just looks around and he doesn't know what to say. He's like frozen.
You guys think he's talking to us?
Rev like nods. Should I say something?
This is like this awesome, just like, should I say something? All the other guys
Rev
are just like,
Rev's like, who is it? He just shouts out, who's there?
he merely just yells out, he goes, "Stunbuck, I'm coming in." And as that
Rev
happens,
stands back.
this emanating light is starting to fill up the cave entrance. And essentially, whatever this is casting a shadow upon the walls now. It's casting a glowing red and orange illumination upon the walls as it grows closer and closer. Unfortunately, it's still some kind of darkened silhouette that is now entering in, but you can see, though, Rev being the closest, that its size and its width is barely allowing it to get through the entrance. Like it's literally almost filling up the entryway.
Can Rev see how big this entrance is? Like,
On a quick guesstimation, you'd probably think that it's width-wise maybe 10 feet wide, and it's a little taller, maybe 10, 11 feet high. So whatever is coming at you is at least 9 by 9, at least.
okay. Rev is backpedaling pretty quickly then.
Okay. You all notice that Rev, who has gone a little bit in front of you, is now walking backwards, and you can see that a really bright orange and red light is now flooding in to the cave entrance itself. What does everybody want to do?
I forgot if I retracted or put back my shield drone or anything like that. Last I
don't know.
remember,
I don't know.
last I remember I had it placed on placed on Boldo. I'm gonna kind of just make my way to the edge of the cave and just kind of crouch down or whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just preparing.
Sarge, what do you want to do?
I got my ion crackle ready.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Can I arm my Mars program?
Absolutely. Your Mars program's been on this whole time. You haven't switched it off.
Oh, okay.
So you're definitely in that red sheen exosuit. So do you want to ready something?
Yeah, he's actually gonna just ready his helicon cannon.
Okay. So essentially you guys are taking defensive positions. Okay.
Yeah.
Jaina's right behind you, Rev, so you can feel her hand on your back.
Okay.
So every time that you move, she's kind of like moving back.
Rev will probably have his hand like kind of behind him, like pushing her back
Sure,
as he
makes
slowly
sense.
pulls his sword
Okay.
because he doesn't know what's coming in.
Voldo starts to move back into the side. He's trying to give a little bit of a wide berth, but he's keeping Danny behind her as well. And Sinjin kind of is almost side by side with you, Rev, as he kind of like essentially he just moves away from you a little bit to give space in case if you guys did have to attack, you guys aren't climbing over each other. He's trying to be aware of his tactical environment, if anything like that. As it seems to get closer and closer, Rev, specifically you, what you seem to see before you is something that you've seen before. and it is a Hellmaw, which you guys battled very, very, very long time ago in episode number 2, which you and Otis battled while Skag was getting killed.
Was that the guy in the mech suit?
No, a Hellmaw is essentially, it's the larger brother of a devil dog. So a devil dog is more of a rabid wasteland, four-legged creature. The Hellmaw is more like a 10-foot red phosphorescent cracked skin wolf.
Holy crap. Rev is not happy to see one of these walking in.
As you start to see it get closer and closer, essentially the best way is it now enters into the main portion of the cave itself. What you see in front of you is a fiery, crackling, red phosphorescent, cracked, skin-like creature known as a Hellmaw. They're very close to their cousins, known as the Wastehounds, but they're twice their size. They are solo and sometimes pack hunters. They have very large fangs that produce an acid-like saliva to help liquefy their prey. When they stand on all fours, they're about 9 feet tall or so and weigh over a ton. Its tail is about the only thing that has any kind of fur upon its relatively hairless, cracked skin, phosphorescent body. This one, though, seems to be much larger than anything that you had seen on Lumina.
Mm-hmm.
There is a tuft of fur that is still on their tail that is a gray coloration. Best comparison, again, is a large furless wolf. It has dark, moon-like black eyes, and it has 2 horns upon their head, and they have smaller horns that line the outside of their jaw. Their ears are long and droopy, but are also jagged and pointed. And you being the closest, you can feel its breath upon you, even though you're probably a good 5 feet away. And it smells of death.
Rev's going to be like, who called out earlier?
As this thing enters in, I need everyone to roll steeled to make sure that you don't cower. If you do not have steeled, then just make a risk level standard odd.
Well, I failed. Anyway, I got a 2.
Okay. Roll a 10.
Okay.
I got 11.
Okay, so Jaina got 11. I need roll for Sinjin, if you could.
Oh, yes.
And if somebody could roll for Voldo and Danny.
I'll roll for Voldo.
Okay.
I'll roll for Danny.
Thank you.
Voldo got 3.
Okay.
Sinjin got 1.
Okay.
Danny got 9.
Okay. So Rev and the doctor immediately dropped to one knee.
Yeah.
Just like not wanting to look at, not
out.
looking, and it's essentially right in front of you, probably no more than 3 or 4 feet away.
I'm kind of like shuddering, my ion crackle, kind of like, oh shit.
Absolutely. This thing is a good 10 feet tall, though. It's literally almost filling up the whole room. Every time that it takes a step, you can actually feel the reverberation shaking of the power and the weight. Rev, as you're kind of like, has your head down and you're kind of looking down, you can notice that his claws are like razor sharp. And they're like tapping like in front of you. And before you know it, you can feel its heavy, hot breath once again upon you. And it makes you nauseous to smell it and inhale it.
Mm.
It looks at you, and you all kind of take a look at it, and I need everyone to make a awareness check, if you could.
4 for me.
Okay.
3.
Okay.
6.
6. Jaina got a 9. Sinjin got a 10.
Voldo got a 6.
Voldo got a 6, and Danny got an 8. Most of you notice that there seems to be a large gold collar that is sitting upon the lower part of its neck. And it goes all the way under, and most of it is easily seen because there's no fur around here. But some of it gets obscured a little bit because of how far out the horns that jut out upon its jaw. And it merely breathes heavy again. And it looks across every one of you. And again, it's got these dead eyes. And he just goes, "Who is Rev? Step forward. I come with a message."
Rev is like cowering in fear right before it. And he can't really talk. He's just like, like stuttering, can't say anything because he's so awed by this thing in front of him.
He looks over and he looks at the Sarge, who's looking at this thing directly in its eyes, and just goes, "Are you Rev?"
No, my name is Gideon.
"Which one is Rev?"
And the Sarge Rev is like right with them.
Rev's
Is he with them?
essentially, Rev's kneeled down in front of this beast.
Okay, Gideon, he shows him, "This is Rev."
Rev immediately, when you hear him, you're just like, "No, not."
Oh,
Rev can't look away from this thing. He's just looking at the teeth that are like a foot and a half in front of him, just like, I've never seen anything like this.
You do notice, Doc, that every time that he speaks, as well as Gideon, that these cracked lining that is in his skin, it's essentially emanating this phosphorescent light, glows every time that he says something. And it grows brighter and brighter the more power that he exerts. And he just merely just goes and he looks down and he breathes again directly onto you, Rev. And just goes, "Are you Rev? If you are, stand."
Rev would like to attempt to stand. I don't know if he has either the courage or the wherewithal with his smell coming at him, if he can or not.
You do your best, and you're on weak, wobbly legs a little bit. And he merely looks at you, and again, you're just looking at dead eyes. That are like literally just moon-shaped almost a bit. And he just goes, "My name is Holin. I come on behalf of the Silver Thrush. You know whom I speak of, do you not?"
Rev kind of looks at his friends like, who's the Silver Thrush?
The Doc and Voldo know. Roll knowledge, if anybody has it.
I don't have that.
I do.
Okay.
Oh, wait. No. Yeah, I do. I didn't see the first one. I knocked it over. 7.
The Silver Thrush is what was presented to you back in Warband when you tried to cross the bridge.
Oh.
And told you that you had to unburden yourself in order to cross.
Oh, shit.
We were interacted with one of the Titans at that point, right?
Based on that, Rev, you now remember, it all comes back to you. Her name was Larien.
Okay. Rev says, I remember somebody of great power speaking to us below Warband. Are you connected with Larienne?
And he merely just goes, yes. She sends her blessings and hopes that you find what you require to help bring balance. Quran reluctantly sends a gift as well.
What kind of gift can Quran send?
He merely just breathes so heavy on you that it knocks you back, and everybody else takes a step back as well. Sarge, you get extremely nauseous. Luckily, Doc, you're the farthest back, so you get the least brunt of it, but everybody takes a step back as Rev says, what could Quran possibly give? And he merely just goes, Quran, the creator, the titan of the infinite space, the devourer. You ask what he could give to you.
Rev's like, I'm sorry. I didn't think he would care about small mortals like us.
What about you, Hat Man in the back?
As far as a gift from Quran,
Do you hold Quran in the same breath?
both.
Disrespectful of the Titans? Pathetic. She sent me here to save you. Forget it.
I'm not.
Don't trifle me with your words anymore. Upon my back is your gift. Come, Rev, and fetch it, boy.
Rev's gonna very, very slowly and cautiously, keeping like a good 2 feet between him as he kind of circles this thing to see what could possibly be on the back of this gigantic
It's
wolf
essentially
that he's looking
connected
at.
to that large collar. There's a
Okay.
relatively small leather bag that's back there that he merely starts to shake violently, and you jump back so he can release it, and it just comes tumbling down upon the ground in front of you.
I will like reach one hand, like very keeping my body far to like pluck it up and back away from this thing.
What it is essentially is just a leather pouch, more essentially like a leather backpack.
Oh, it's bigger.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's bigger than that. And what is in there is simply a simple black cloak.
Okay.
And it's a simple black cloak that when you pull it out, Rev, and you kind of like put it around you, it kind of drapes off the shoulder. It's got an elegant kind of look, almost a noble look. And what happens with this is the exhaustion pressure that is bound to Vea will no longer affect you.
Oh.
You also increase your speed by 5 feet while you're on Vea, and any natural exhaustion is restored by another +1 while you're on Vea. And there seems to be cloaks for everybody in the group.
Rev starts shaking them out and like passing them to the different members here and says, This is a kingly gift from Quran.
So,
What's the catch?
no catch. It's a gift from a Titan. You should be thankful.
Well, I guess then I am. Then
So
I
St. John
should
gets
be.
one. Sarge, you now have a new cloak. Make sure you write that down.
You said it's all natural, all natural restoring exhaust is increased by 1. Is that correct?
Yep. So any natural exhaust that you restore while you're on Vea is increased by 1.
Okay.
Your speed is increased by 5 feet while you're on Vea as well. And the exhaustion pressure that is bound to Vea no longer affects you at all.
While this thing, this amazing, majestic creature is kind of still right in front of Rev, he wants to ask, so it can protect us from whatever this energy is here. What about those spider things? You have any idea how to avoid these things? They're everywhere.
He merely looks at you again, and he gets down on all fours, so he's essentially level with you.
Mm-hmm.
And he just goes, "Don't worry about them. Larian has sent me to find you and help you find your way back to the path before you stray too far off and are lost forever. So for the moment I am here to help you. But looking at you, pathetic lot, I'm not sure how you survived this long. But good for you either way."
Rev's like a
So,
little insulted when he says that.
sure.
He's like,
I mean,
not
yeah,
all of us could be a 10-foot tall
fair enough.
wolf
Fair enough.
beast.
There's a little bit of a whoosh. He looks at you and he merely gets up, back up on the floor. He turns around with his back towards you, and he lays back down. He just goes, "Either way, take rest. You are safe here for now. When you are ready, we will go. But before that, there's a test, and you each must pass."
Rev looks at Doc. There's your catch.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm grateful. All right.
With that, you each have the cloaks, and upon more investigation, you kind of can see that as you kind of like pulling up and looking at it, that there seems to be almost invisible like silver lining that is within the inside of the cloak, and everything is old ancient runes that have been etched into the cloaks themselves, probably some spells or something that allows you to not be affected by the powers of Vea itself. But for the most part, it just seems like a relatively simple cloak that is just really well made. And it does have a hood. As the beast, Holin, is now completely engulfed the entranceway, so you can't really get past him.
Mm-hmm.
He gives you words to just rest, and when you guys are ready, there will be a test, and then he will take you back to find the path. Gentlemen, during these moments, you will get what is known as Holin's Grace, which will allow you to, in front of everyone here, to level up your characters. You've gotten to a point in the arc where you have essentially ascended to the next level.
All right. So not expecting that. Okay. Are you going to give us stats for this level up?
I did not have that pulled up, so I'm going to take a look at it right now. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Okay, sure.
Is that what you mean by like the Vanguard level or whatever?
Yes.
So right now I'm a 1.
Okay,
right?
that should be right.
That's
What
I
are
have
what are
written down
you?
anyway.
I have Vanguard level 2. I'm not sure if that was before or after you gave us that skill point at the beginning of this
No.
session. At
The
this
skill point
season.
was just me gifting you something.
Okay, so I was Vanguard level 2. So if
Okay,
we're ascending, I guess I'm going to Vanguard
you're
3.
going to Vanguard level 3, which essentially gives you +3 exhaust for Rev. I'm talking about Rev. You get +7 vitality increase, and you get to add any keyword.
Okay.
For Sinjin, you got to make sure you take care of this for Sinjin as well.
Oh, okay.
Is that you're going to get +1 exhaust increase for you and Sinjin. You're going to get +5 vitality increase for you and Sinjin.
Okay.
And you get 1 upgrade point.
Oh,
For
okay.
yourself. That will be the exact same thing for you, Doc. You're going to increase your exhaust pool by 1. You're going to get 5 more vitality point.
The maximum exhaust, right?
Yes. Correct.
Vitality by 5, you said?
Correct. And you're going to get 1 upgrade point.
Towards one of my skills.
To any one of your skills, absolutely. You can save it if you want to. You can apply it now if you want to. Just remind me that it also happened to Voldo, and for me to tell Mike that for Voldo.
We get no increased armor rating or reaction or anything like that.
No, you do not.
Damn it. You said I got exhaust, vitality, and a keyword. I did not get a skill point. Is that correct?
No skill point for Vanguard 3.
Just one. Gotcha. Thank
you.
So
I can take one of my skills up a level. Interesting. I like
the new keyword too.
Yeah. So any keyword that you want, go ahead and apply it.
And I don't get a keyword, right?
No, you do not. You get the upgrade point.
Yeah.
Cool.
The Rev does increase his exhaust by +3.
Yes, that is very good for me. 24.
Okay, so did everyone increase their exhaust?
Mm-hmm.
Exhaust pool.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone's increased their vitality pool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you want to spend the upgrade point, you can go ahead and do it now. You don't need to tell me. If you want to add a keyword, you can go ahead and do it now. If you want to just save it until you have time to do it at the end, it's completely fine. Essentially, this falls into a rest for you if you guys decide you would like to do that.
Yeah, Rev definitely needs to rest.
Okay, I can say it from a GM to you guys that nothing will happen to you during this time because Holland is guarding.
Very nice.
You're relatively safe.
Take my old cloak that I'm replacing now, wrap it up as a pillow, and use my new cloak as my blanket as I rest.
Nice. As Jaina's kind of like checking out her new dig and just going, because she didn't have a cloak before. She's like, wow, this is really nice, isn't it, Rev?
It's like, yeah, it's like we got new uniforms or something.
Who's Quran again?
Apparently there's like some titans, and we kind of talked to one time, and they're really powerful, and
okay,
I'm kind of afraid of them, so
I think I would be too.
Rev looks at Holland and is like, but don't say anything bad about him, okay?
she gets what you're saying, and she kind of like goes, no problem. And with that, Jaina's relatively exhausted. She's been climbing around in vents. She's been running. She's been climbing trees. The exhaustion alone of Vea itself has been very taxing. And she just kind of like falls asleep in your lap.
Oh, okay.
Sinjin takes notice, doesn't go over to her at all, merely slides down and sits next to you, Sarge, and he just goes, you doing okay, Sarge?
The sergeant, like he's feeling like he already feels more confident.
Sure, yeah.
Like with the, so he's like yes, I'm feeling Better, actually.
I mean, he looks at you and he just goes, "You look better." I mean, because I don't know, it's like weird for me to say this, Sarge, but you actually kind of look younger, a bit.
Oh, interesting.
But he just kind of pats you on your back and he just goes, can you believe this? Like, it's a big fucking wolf. It's like sitting there, man, and we're like, he's like supposedly protecting us. I think he's gonna eat us, but I'm just too tired to do anything right now. And he goes, to be honest, I think I was frozen like an hour ago. And I cut you out of an arachnid. Like, I think you should stand guard and watch. I think you gotta let me just get a little bit of sleep here.
I will, Sinjin. You rest.
Thanks, Sarge. And with that, he almost just like instantly falls to sleep. There's for you, Rev, for even the Doc, and for everyone else, and for Danny and Voldo. It's not an eerie feeling. It's just a very non-expected comfortability that seems to fall over the cave. That whatever is out there won't come in. And there's a warmth that's in there. The smell of his breath dissipates. And Danny, who's completely exhausted at this point and is coming down from a really hard sugar crash.
Yeah.
From
all that Jolton juice.
Yeah. And just kind of falls asleep.
I almost gave her another one. I did. I was going to give her another one when she was all...
Just falls asleep in Voldo's arms. And Voldo's merely just kind of like holding her. There's a smile that kind of falls on Voldo's face, especially since they had a little bit of a tiff. And there's a safeness in Voldo's face and his eyes right now that she's with him. Doc, you notice that everybody is just essentially finding a bit of rest. What do you want to do?
I'm still kind of tripping on the cloak, but just trying to soak all this in.
It's a relatively nice cloak, but it kind of clashes with your look.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Like the colors just don't really work out.
Well,
top hat and cape.
Yeah,
I think I wanna like kind of. I'm gonna take my duster off and just kind of put it under my duster, I guess. Or
sure.
But I'm looking at that thing around the wolf's neck. Now I'm assuming that whatever it is, it's meant to control this beast and speak through him, correct?
As far as you can get, you probably think it's some kind of neural vocal processor.
Yeah.
It allows him to communicate.
And I'm just like really hoping that he doesn't somehow take it off or it doesn't come off, because I feel like that's what's keeping this thing in check. So I'm just kind of analyzing the whole situation.
Okay.
And wondering if there's any type of remote release on that thing that may be deployed if we don't play ball somehow. I don't know. I'm still a little skeptical.
You can make an examination check.
All right.
Do you have examination?
Yes.
You have examination? Okay.
5.
It looks like it's pretty well made. If you wanted to remove it, it'd be very much something like you did for Jaina. You'd probably have to like plasma cut through this thing, but his seems to be much bigger and much thicker. It would take you a while to do it, and he probably wouldn't be sitting there allowing you to do something like that while you do that. So
No, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
I kind of think, well, I kind of think that it's if it comes off, then we got this thing attacking us,
Right.
basically.
It
And I
seems
don't
like
know.
it's
I don't know if
still
whoever put that on or
Mhm.
whoever. I'm a little suspicious, and I don't
Sure.
want them to just pull that card and like release it. Next thing you know,
No, makes sense. Yeah.
we're in an instant fight.
Yeah. It looks like it's still relatively um the integrity's still there. It doesn't look like it's like shabby and falling apart. It
I
looks
guess
like
I'm just kind of looking
it's
at
definitely
making
see
sure,
some
like, if he just doesn't
sure.
inadvertently try and like go for it or something.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, we're dealing with a freaking Hulk.
Based on your examination, nothing really gives you the sense that this is gonna like fall apart or fall off. Now internally you have no idea, but just for in regards to structural integrity of the exterior, it looks sound.
Nice.
For the rest of you though, as you're watching, especially Rev, you're seeing that the doc like creeping over a little bit and doing a whole lot of like looking and like taking notes and stuff like that. He's like, what do you want to do? Are you guys going to
uh,
take rest while you have the
yeah,
chain?
Rev has moved pretty. He's still freaked out about this thing from when it
Sure.
first came out and got started cowering. He's going like to the far side of the cave, away from this thing. Uh, about as far as he can get and still be in the cave. And he is going to put his old cloak on the ground and kind of lay down, but keep like one eye on the dock to make sure he's
Sure.
not
Not doing any
poking
crazy. Sure.
the wolf, you know.
For the most part, the doc you watch him before rest takes you. And rest takes you relatively quick. You're exhausted.
Yeah.
The doc is keeping a good 5 feet away. He's not getting any close, even though there are moments where the doc had to do a little bit of dodging because of the snapping of his tail back and forth. That he's been, yeah, he was just like, in order to kind of like, that is just kind of like involuntary that's coming from this large beast. And for the most part, the doc seems to take interest a little bit. He's doing some notes and some research and some calculations before he seems to be happy with whatever he's obtained, and he goes and he sits down into a corner. Are you going over your notes, Doc, or do you just allow yourself to
Just
take some rest as
just
well?
soaking it all in, convincing myself that I'm okay for now,
Sure.
and now did Gideon crash out just yet?
Gideon, do you take rest? Gideon,
He's actually gonna he's gonna keep guarding.
yeah,
Like
Gideon,
he's just got his eyes on the
you
what do you
do
call it? Yeah, on the doorway.
your energy is pulsing through it. You don't feel tired at all in the least. Something in that apple pie, you think, that nice cup of coffee, as you keep a watchful eye over the group.
I'm gonna kind of like finish looking over, kind of settle. I'm gonna quickly scan, and I'm gonna kind of do a double take at Sarge and look at everyone else, and I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go over to Sarge and I'm gonna check on him, just kind of ask him, because I know I would think anyway, after all that he's been through, he might be one of the
Sure.
first ones to rest, and so I'm gonna immediately just kind of be like, well, that's kind of odd, here we are, we're given a chance to take a little breather, and I'm just gonna go, hey, so Sarge, what say you, man? Are you gonna rest or what? How you feeling? You look a little chipper, all things considered.
Make an quick examination check of the Sarge as well.
Yeah. 12.
Okay. Sarge, you get the sense that the doc might be in a chatty mood. It might be wondering a little too much about too much. And as of right now, you have a bit of a secret you're holding. Do you want to answer him or present yourself to him honestly? Or do you want to present to him a part of you that is only you are ready to show? Do you want to deceive him a little bit in regards to what he sees from you?
I'm gonna because what I want to tell him is that my adrenaline is up,
Okay.
and I'm just feeling. So yeah, I guess there's deception
Okay.
in it, or
Go ahead and roll duplicity.
okay.
If you don't have
so,
it,
oh yeah, I don't think.
okay,
I
then
do.
you're gonna roll
Oh
it.
no, I don't have
You're
it.
just gonna roll it with standard. Just roll it odd.
That's with 8.
Okay. You try to present yourself just a regular normal front to the doc. But Doc, you can see that he's alive. More so than you've ever seen the Doc before. Like all his wounds and the nicks and the scratches that he had, you don't see on him. He just looks like he's alive.
Wow, I gotta get me some of that adrenaline, Sarge. Gee, if I didn't know any better, you kind of look like you found the fountain of youth there, buddy.
I feel strangely. I feel like a new man almost. I feel there's something about. It must be. I don't. It must have been the battle or something. I just feel. I don't know if it's because I've never seen this type of creature before. This this giant wolf thing.
Well, you got me there.
Roll awareness, Rev, if you can.
Okay. That's a 6.
Okay.
And I have awareness, so I don't know if that. I think that's success.
You can hear this chattering as you're drifting off to sleep. You can hear this kind of back and forth conversation. It's enough for you to listen just a little bit before sleep takes you.
Okay.
Just because it seems like the moment you hear, I feel like a new man, and the fountain of youth, you think to yourself, I don't know, is it just the light of the cave? But he does look different, but I'm just too tired right now.
Yeah, I notice and can't help but wondering what the hell could make him feel like a new man out here.
Especially through everything that he's gone through.
I know. I was like, I'm pretty sure he just did battle surgery, and Sarge is a crazy one, that's for sure.
You hear these words from him, Doc. There's nothing immediately that sets off any alarms or anything like that. It's just a weird conversation that you're having that just doesn't seem very much like the Sarge that he has been this way since as long as you've known him and you've sat down and had drinks. He's always a guy that seems very burdened by things. But again, you don't know, is it just the cave? Is it just the light? But he looks a little younger, a little more spry.
I'm just gonna pause and give him another look. I'm just gonna say, well, old buddy, trying times, they affect us all differently. And hey, maybe these new cloaks are working already, huh?
Maybe.
All right, old pal. Will you plan on standing here the whole time, or are you gonna?
I'm gonna guard just in case that something goes on with that dog. Like, I just want to make sure we're all protected.
All right, old pal. Well, You know where to find us if things get hairy.
I will.
I'm gonna go over here and just shut down for a little bit. I suggest you do the same, old friend.
Now, did you?
The words don't exactly even reach you at this point, Sarge.
Oh,
They just kind of drift off. Because you notice as the doc sits down and gets some rest that the beast is looking at you from the corner of its eye.
Interesting.
The beast looks at you and just goes, New man, you say? There's a reason for that, isn't there? And he merely turns back. His words pierce right through you. You don't know what he even really means by that. But if you're honest with yourself, he knows that there's something different about you. Immediately when he says that, you feel like maybe sleep would be the best thing to do. Staying too awake might raise too many suspicions. With that, you sit down and you take sleep as much as you can as your mind races of hot coffee and apple pie. Everyone is now, when you awaken, fully refreshed. All your exhaust is completely restored. All your vitality is completely restored. Any skills that had any kind of time lock on it are completely restored as well. Each one of you awakens at the exact same time. And mostly that's because of the sounds of Holin growling for you to wake up. He is now positions himself back right there in the same spot, but he's turned around to look at you all. Wake up! You've rested long enough. It's time to have a talk.
Rev wants to look at Holland and be like, wow, you weren't just a dream.
No dream, Rev.
I'm just gonna say, oh, you're still here, huh?
I don't like that
Right.
one.
Oh, come on, I love you.
Voldo gets up and Danny gets up. And they're both, again, a bit standoffish, even though Voldo starts to kind of like move forward a little bit. Sarge, do you wake up? Sinjin wakes up.
yeah.
Danny and Jaina kind of wipe the sleep out of their eyes as they stretch. And they stand before Holin, who merely looks at you all and goes, Before we continue, I have a question. Do you have the will to continue on this journey?
He's asking all of us.
Yes. Think carefully.
I don't know. Everybody, do we have the will?
Rev looks at Jaina and nods his head.
Jaina
Says,
nods
yeah.
back.
Yeah, we have the will.
Voldo looks at you, Rev. sees that you kind of like shake your head towards Jana and looks at you and just goes, yeah. And he turns to Hole and just goes, yeah. Yeah, we got the will. A little bit of an arrogance and cockiness. Yeah, we got the will.
When I look over at Sarge.
Danny merely just nods and says nothing. Sarge?
Sarge, like, he's kind of like looking at the wolf or the beast, and like he feels like he doesn't know like what he knows, but he does answer in the affirmative. It's like, yes, we have the will.
St. John looks at you and it's the look of somebody who's just a soldier who will follow his sergeant into battle. He's reluctant though, and you can see it in his eyes. Because he knows, maybe more than anyone, that death could be around the corner. And just goes, I'm with the Sarge. If the Sarge says we have the will, then we have the will. And with that, St. John looks to the doctor.
Well, I've been on borrowed time for a long time, so if you're asking me if I have the will, then all I can say is yes.
Holland looks at each one of you and nods. Why? You all say yes, and yet you hesitate to answer. Why?
Rev kind of looks around and says, why what? Why do we have the will? What are you asking?
Why do you have the will to continue? What do you hope to find?
I hope to find a way to change Saldaria for the better.
Looks to the doctor. He seems relatively accepting of Rev's answer.
I get flooded with like a kind of a sense of purpose that I'm not used to having.
Okay.
I've always been kind of fighting off this thing that drives me, and but it all kind of comes to head in that moment because no one's really asked me point blank something like that before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to try and veil all of that with a somewhat generic response and I'm just going to tell them, we've gotten this far for a reason, and this can't be the end of our story. There has to be something, and I want to see it through. That could be something different for all of us, but right now it's the same. And I feel like there's nothing else that I'm driven to do right now.
After your words hit him, he seems accepting of your answer and looks to the Sarge. Why?
Sarge responds, I suppose I want to know that my years of warfare and the hardship have not been wasted, and that there will be a difference in this land.
And he looks at you and he just goes, is that you saying that?
That takes me back a little bit, and I'm just going to look up at the wolf. I'm going to slowly kind of look over at Sarge and wait for his response.
Is that
The
you?
Sarge says,
do you truly mean that? Or is there something else now that guides you?
The Sarge, at least in the Sarge's own mind, like he feels like he's rationalized it. where he thinks like, yeah, it's like I can control this thing.
Sure.
So yeah, he feels like he's gonna do something better, and that this is his chance um, to bring value to all those years like of his past.
Okay.
So yeah, he says, "Yes, it's me."
Immediately when you say that, everybody hears that differently. Yes, that's me. Which doesn't necessarily sound normal coming from him. It's an interesting way to respond to the question as well.
Right. In my mind, I'm thinking, why would you validate any notion that it could be coming from anywhere else and even make a distinction? You know, like if it were me, I'd be, well, who the hell else would it be? Or what else would it be? You know what I mean? So I'm totally just focused on Sarge right now and just kind of peeked at this right now.
It's an interesting way to respond as well, Rev, to it. But you hear in your ears and in your mind, Sarge, keep a secret. It's our secret. Don't give us away.
Does Rev get any mystical thing off of any of this?
Go ahead and roll a mystical, but you're going to roll it at extreme.
Okay. 3.
Yeah. It seems to you like the Sarge might have a split personality at this point. Like he's taking just too many shots to the head.
He's fallen out of too many trees. Yeah.
That there's some kind of personality displacement that might have happened there. Some kind of Freudian thing.
Or maybe we're in Vea. Vea's getting to him.
Vea's getting to him, sure.
Okay.
It doesn't seem to. Voldo doesn't seem to. Yeah, Voldo does not notice at all. Based on the phrasing of his response. With that, Holin looks at you and he just nods. He looks to Jaina. What would Jaina say, Rev?
Jaina fights for a couple things, I think. So I think she would say, I have the will for my brother, for my family, and for me.
What do you think Sinjin would say as the question is posed to him? Sarge?
Oh, for me. Oh, I think he would say,
It'd have to be a soldier's response.
yeah, I think he would say, I fight for Soldaria, and I would, and I support my comrades wherever they go.
Okay. He takes in these responses and merely looks at each one of you and just goes, fine. Before your test, a final gift from Lorien herself. Where is the leather pack?
Rev pulls it from kind of his pack that he had stored it in, kind of presents it here.
He merely looks at you to kind of put it on the ground in front of him.
Okay. Rev places it and kind of backs away.
As he does that, he uses his his paw to kind of open it up a bit. Just the flap that's kind of coming over it. And he places his, essentially like his nose, to try to open it up a little bit, and he merely breathes into the pack. And the pack seems to glow. And it was a flat pack, has now essentially filled with air, and then it compresses back down. And what Rev can see is something is now glowing, a bright silver and white, inside the pack. And he looks to you and he just goes, "Come forth, Rev."
Rev is intrigued. He slowly approaches, trying to get a look at whatever has just appeared inside this pack.
He just merely looks at you and just goes, "It's okay. You may open it up."
Rev kneels down, opens, and reaches in.
What you see is one for everyone that is in the group, a single silver feather. And he looks at you and he just goes, "It's the feather from the silver thrush herself. A gift from Larian." And what you're presented with for each one of you is called Larian's silver feather. This, as long as you hold it, will allow you to levitate for 3 seconds, or to fly for 5 seconds, or if need be, you can use it to safe fall. This can be used once per day. In your hand it glows and it feels comfortably warm in your hand, and this warmth fills your very body. You get a feeling, especially for you, Doc, that this might be minor protection against any extremely cold and frigid environments.
So levitate for 3 seconds.
You can levitate for 3 seconds, or you can fly for 5 seconds. It can also be used to help with a safe fall if you were falling. But you can only use this ability once per day.
Can we use each ability once per day, or only
No,
one of these 3?
Just one of the 3 per day.
Okay. One of the 3, okay.
I can only tell you that if you lose it, you'll never get another one again. Okay?
Rev tells Holem, this is an amazing gift. Convey my thanks to Lorien.
He merely looks at you and he just goes, "Maybe one day you can convey it to her yourself. She watches over you. You help to bring balance." I can only tell you now that your answers are acceptable. Now your test. I will find out one way or another if you were strong enough for the rest of Vea. And with that, he lets out a roar inside the cave. As he lets out this roar, essentially a howl, it's an ear-curdling sound that shakes the cave itself. It's ear-piercing and almost drives each one of you to the ground, as it's audio sensor overload for you guys, and it's utter confusion. Before you know it, you see an intense flash of light, and you can see all around you that the runes on the cave walls are now glowing a bright green. Your eyes close immediately, and then when you open them again, you're still back into the same cave, but the entrance is now gone. And he merely looks at you, and he's standing on all fours, and he just goes, "Attack me. All at once. Show me your strength. And if you can survive the harshness of... that you can survive the harshness of Vea. If you cannot, then Lorien will now know what strength and resolve you have left to even continue. and if your words are just dead weight. Now prepare yourself and begin. No one can leave until you prove yourself. Are you ready?
Rev pulls out his sword and he is preparing. He is ready.
Jaina unslings her rifle and takes a stance. She stands ready. Voldo pulls out sword, his scythe, and stands ready. Danny pulls out her hammer, holding Voldo's hand, and stands ready. Sinjin arms his AP cannon and stands ready. What does the Sarge do, and what does the Doc do?
I'm going to skin my or deploy my drone ion guardian, and I'm going to ready my my ion crackle.
Okay. Sergeant, what do you do?
He's gonna arm his helicon cannon.
Okay. And with that, gentlemen, you will be attacking Holland. So this is a Let's Rock moment that we will pick up on next week's session.
All right. We get to fight a giant wolf lion tiger.
It's a liger. It's bred for its abilities in magic.
Hey, he is a liger. Okay.
It's a liger. What is that? It looks so great. It's a liger. It's like
It's only my favorite animal.
It's my favorite animal.
It's a lion and a tiger mixed. It's bred for his abilities in magic.
Bred for his magic. I want to thank everyone who hung out with us this evening and was just hanging around and lurking. Sorry, again, we did miss Mike here. Hopefully he'll be here for next week, which will allow him to be part of the Who Can Fight Holland. The Grand Elder Maw is what he essentially is. He is an ancient Maw that has a deep connection to Lorien as well as Quran. We found some interesting information in regards to the newfound relationship of one Sword and Sarge.
It's a love triangle. It's just the weirdest love triangle I've ever seen.
When Cam shows up, she's gonna like, who is this other inanimate object?
He's now known as Sworge.
Sworge.
Cam loves the Sarge. Sarge loves the sword. Sword loves.
Cam loves Sarge's sword.
Voldo.
Yeah, all these
Voldo
weird
things. Loves Danny. It's all a weird thing.
That's awesome. Thank you again so much for hanging out with us, evening. Thank you so much for this amazing cast here. Thank you so much, of course, Ryan, aka Ran118. Good sir.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you again for a crazy story. Cannot wait for next time.
I love giving you guys the story, and then I make you fight things, and then give you another more story, and then fight things.
Dance, monkey, dance.
Dance, monkey, dance. I want to thank my very good friend here, Richard Keith, playing the Sarge. Thank you very much,
Richard Keith.
Oh yeah, thank you. It was awesome.
And of course, as you always know, playing the Doctor, my brother from another mother, Shane. Thank you so much, good sir, as well this evening.
Well done, guys. Good night.
It was
quick.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very cool session in regards to some story elements that allowed you to see more of a relationship that comes from the Sarge, and maybe some of the things that he wants as an adventurer and traveler that you guys didn't really know too much about previously, which is some interesting things there. Thank you again so much for hanging out with us this evening. I don't have the last week's episode available. Unfortunately, it is so horribly PowerPoint presentation frames dropping all over the place that I'd have to edit that for a year and a half in order to make it something that's relatively watchable. So unfortunately, you won't be able to see last week's on YouTube, but I'll definitely go ahead and put this one up probably tomorrow. So you can definitely get caught up on that. And if you want to see last week's and you watch that you can definitely go into the VODs and check it out. You can always, as well, make sure if you guys are interested in the Chili Dog Gang t-shirt and mug, you can check down below. That is available for you guys now. And another thing, make sure if you watch this to go over to Rand's channel. He's an amazing streamer, amazing friend. You'll get a blast that are going to his channel at Rand118, and watch some FTL and some what is that? What
All
is that
sorts-
card game? The card game that you played? It's like really called Monster Train.
Monster Train, yeah.
And BattleTech. So those are some of the games that he's been playing, which I've had a blast actually watching a lot of them. Not the FTL, but the other two things.
Of course.
Which I love dearly, as well as go to his YouTube channel and you can see a D&D stream that we did with a bunch of new friends here, and we'll
We're
be
gonna do more. It'll be great.
more streaming on it. So that'll be on Sunday afternoons. And you can
Yeah.
check that out. It's the Curse of
Couple weeks, yeah.
Strahd, where I play a dwarf paladin and he plays a half elf bard with a bunch of other really cool people and a really cool DM. So definitely check that out. And as always, everyone, just keep safe out there, stay COVID free, and till next time, keep it safe on the ways, everyone. Good night.